Cool. So, Councilmember Alvarez,
Yes.
take me through the mayor's speech tonight. What was your thought on it? And
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the mayor rightfully acknowledged that, last year was a difficult year for San Diegans, particularly when it came to the homeless issue and hepatitis A and the crisis that created. And so there wasn't a lot about last year. There was a lot about the future year, the current year. And I think that's good. We got to think about what we're going to actually do this year. And so I was pleased to hear about housing. That's something that we have to continue to work on. Really, really important for all of San Diego and for all of the state of California, but for us, the San Diegans. I definitely would have liked to have heard more about the details about homelessness and what we're going to do there. And so, I think we start off, he said he wants to get things done. I think that's a different perspective than what we've had before, and I think that's good. I think we need to take action on all these issues, and so I'm looking forward to working with him on some of that stuff.
So, talking about your measure that's going to the ballot regarding the homeless crisis.
Well, it's not going to the ballot yet.
It's going to be going to the ballot.
It's still going through the council process. The city council still has to deliberate and decide what they're going to put forward. But the measure that I've put forward essentially just sets aside 1 penny out of the hotel taxes that people already pay, so it's not a tax increase. And that penny being set aside will, over the next 5 years, create $132 million to help and support the homeless and housing situation for them. And so I'm glad that the council committee has moved it forward. I think it's a really good sign that we really want to take action on homelessness, and it's a good opportunity for the council to really lead on this issue.
And so, essentially, both measures could be on the ballot. Your measure and the mayor's one that he's backing.
Yeah, there will be many measures on the ballot. These two are related, although the one that the mayor's proposing with the hoteliers is a tax increase. Mine is not a tax increase. It's just taking the existing tax money and setting it aside for homelessness services.
And what was your opinion on the mayor's stance on the convention center, on the contiguous plan?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure. I haven't read the actual plan. I don't know how much the mayor knows about it. Probably knows more than I do. So I don't know about what that situation is like. I know that there's still lawsuits. There's still a lot of roadblocks before that can even get built. So I really want to focus on homelessness, and I think any initiative that goes forward should be focused and centered around homelessness and not use the issue of homelessness to advance any other agendas, and that's why I'm proposing my initiative.
So you say your 2018 goal is to focus on homelessness in the city?
Homelessness and housing.
Homelessness.
And I think, again, that's where we can have some common ground there, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect. Well, hey, thank you, Councilman.
Sure.
Okay, so again, your name is?
I'm Haney, President and CEO of the San Diego County Taxpayers Association.
So take me through the mayor's speech today. What'd you think about it, and talk to us about the convention center expansion.
So the Taxpayers Association applauds the mayor's effort to create bipartisan energy towards addressing some of the biggest problems that we have here in San Diego. We've had these problems for a long time, and it's important that we exercise and put some good energy into solving our problems, and I'm pleased that the mayor is providing that leadership.
And in regards to the convention center expansion, how do you feel about does it matter where it's contiguous or not contiguous, the venue for you guys?
So the convention center is a big economic engine for the city of San Diego. It generates, that activity generates significant transient occupancy tax, which helps pay for parks, roads, and so many other services. And so if we can continue to grow that, I think it will be a good thing. But it is also important that we address the big issues that we have. I mean, I think we also know, I appreciate that the mayor mentioned that we have some challenges, for instance, in our finances due to the public pension problem. And that is a persistent challenge that we'll need to continue to address to free up funds, public funds, for these problems.
And how would you go about solving the pension crisis if it was up to you?
Well, there are many things that we can do, including the complete implementation of Proposition B, and there are options that we can create for employees to hopefully to free up. We can create some win-win solutions.
So instead of the pension system, it's a 401k. Is that the correct understanding of it?
There's a lot of things that can be done to help address this challenge, and we want to create options for employees so that we can move that forward.
Perfect. Well, hey, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
What was your name again, sir?
Matthew Adams. I'm with the San Diego Building Industry Association.
So what do you think is the biggest problem facing San Diego right now in the housing department?
Well, it is the inability to put product on the ground in a timely fashion. We need to build our way out of this crisis, and that's why we are delighted with the mayor's strong words tonight about housing. because there's only one way to solve it, and that's to build, and that's what we hopefully will do even more of here in San Diego.
And are we talking more infill developments, or are you talking expanding out into like Poway, or what would you say is the ultimate goal for housing?
The ultimate goal is to expand housing in all jurisdictions. I wish that other jurisdictions would take on the same commitment that this mayor has in terms of trying to build more housing. Because San Diego, being the largest jurisdiction, is the leader, but there's 17 other cities in this region that have to step up as well if we're really going to solve this problem and make housing more affordable for everyone.
So it would have to be a bilateral issue with the commissioners for the county, or how would you go about implementing those changes throughout the whole county?
Each jurisdiction has to assume its responsibility in providing housing for its citizens. Each jurisdiction has to take a deep dive into their policies and see what is the impediment to produce more housing, and they have to make those corrections. San Diego is attempting to do that rather aggressively. Sadly, most other jurisdictions are not.
What would you say is the biggest hurdle with getting stuff developed in the city or in the state right now?
Getting through the regulatory gauntlet.
So we're talking like CEQA, Coastal Commission, or...
Well, CEQA is a very significant challenge because it is not used for environmental analysis as much now as it's used for litigation and to try to stop projects. CEQA reform is essential if we're really serious about solving the housing crisis.
So certain lawyers, which will remain nameless, who have sued the city over multiple occasions, if you remove that from them, that aspect of we're going to sue over CEQA just because I don't like it, and it's actually back to where CEQA is being used as it was intended for the environment, you would support that?
Oh, absolutely, we would support that. That's what its original intention was. Just so you can have a critical look at what a project is doing. But what has happened now is that they take this analysis, they being lawyers, they look through it and they try to find controversial issues, and then they sue on it. And what that does, it delays projects for many, many years, which ultimately drives up the cost and makes housing more unaffordable to everyone.
I know that's a big issue with a lot of people leaving the county right now because they can't find housing,
Yes.
and that's...
My daughter was one of them.
Yeah. So I'm glad that everyone here is trying to address that, and I'll be looking forward to you guys' leadership on that in the future.
All right, very good.
All right.
Thank you very
Yep,
much.
thank you so much.
Good job. All right.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm here with Jaymie and
Kieth.
Okay, so take us through your roles with the Convention Center expansion project.
I'm with the San Diego Imperial County's Labor Council, which is a group of 125 unions throughout the San Diego region.
And Jaymie, you're with again?
I'm with the San Diego Regional Chamber of Commerce. We represent over 2,500 businesses in the region and 300,000 jobs.
So take us through how vital it is to expand the Convention Center contiguously.
I think it's really important. The Convention Center expansion is the economic driver. We heard that from the mayor today. About 7,000 jobs could be created with the expansion. Which is really important. And then the importance of a revenue stream for the homeless issue.
And Jaymie, your thoughts?
Sure, but aside from the homelessness, which is the most significant proposal you have for a dedicated stream of funding to address it, we also address paving streets and roads. And when you invest in the center, you also grow the TOT, which in turn brings new revenues into the city for police and fire and parks and things like that for city residents.
So take us through the process moving forward. Does it go to the ballot right now, or do you guys have to go out and gather signatures to get this passed?
The signature gathering will come next. Once you go through the 21-day period, it goes to the signatures, and then once you get the required signatures, then it goes to the ballot in November.
And do you guys have support from Comic-Con, any of the other big conventions that you can speak of?
Well, we do. We are now starting our outreach plan, so we will be meeting with different groups from around the city and trying to bring their support on board.
And in regards to the Fifth Avenue landing, the original lease had both a hotel and the convention center expansion. Is there talks of reaching out to the Robert Greene Company and saying, hey, if you guys want to get on board, let's go with the original lease agreement, and you build your hotel over there because we know we need more lodging, and then we also come to a deal on that. Would you be willing to work with them?
We are willing to work with them, however, it is under litigation with the city and the convention center, and so we'd have to refer those questions to those entities.
Okay, cool. And then is there anything else you can tell us about the project that you can think that's prominent that the voters should know?
I think the most important thing is this is a big economic driver. I mean, you're talking about $6.5 billion revenue stream that this would raise for jobs, for the expansion of the convention center, for homeless issues, for streets. This is huge for this city, and if you're going to keep up, I mean, when tourism is one of your top industries that drives your economy. You have to stay up. Other major cities around the country and on the West Coast are doing expansions, and you have to do that expansion as well.
I mean, Anaheim recently just did there. I was up for BlizzCon, so I mean, we have competition locally, and we don't want these conventions leaving to go to other markets. And I mean, San Diego is the best climate.
Yeah.
I mean, as you said, we have a measure that can support all these three major topics of homelessness, roads, and the convention center expansion. What's not to like about that? So,
that's very true. I mean, and it's the jobs as well. I mean, when you start thinking about the jobs, both the construction side and building it gives the opportunity to have citizens right here in this community trained with the skills that they can carry for a lifetime to help build this convention center, the hotels that will come online as a result, and all the jobs that'll create. And the jobs right in the convention center. These are really, really good jobs inside those convention center and the event unions there that represent them.
And last question, because I did hear about this watching the news and reading just through some articles. If they have the contiguous plan, which is the Phase 3 project, but is there any talk, if that can't go through, that they would look at building over Harbor Drive or on top of the rail yard or any other location nearby that could be used as a convention center expansion?
Well, there is flexibility written into the measure in case we get down to a point where the project isn't viable. However, the project is approved unanimously by the Port Commission, by the Coastal Commission, and is shovel ready. So.
Cool, and that's what I wanted to verify. I know because attending some of those meetings it was. So just other options for future expansion, let's just call it. So anyways, guys, thank you guys so much for the interview. I really appreciate it.
It was nice to see you again.
Yeah, nice to see you guys again, and thank you for your time. I'm with Bill Gepper here, and take me through your role with the Downtown Partnership.
Sure. Well, I'm the president of the Downtown Partnership, and a lot about what we heard about tonight is dealing with homelessness and a clean San Diego and creating affordable housing, all of which we're focused on in downtown. So we're a member organization that principally looks after the properties, keeps the streets clean and safe in downtown.
And you guys had a big role with the hepatitis A stuff. So talk us through that.
Well, certainly we, like everyone else in the service providers, when hepatitis A came out, that we were very much involved in cleaning and doing extra cleanings, more power washings, bleaching the streets, and really taking all the steps necessary to make it safe for people to eradicate the threat of hepatitis A. And we've been successful in doing that. It's taken some time. I really think the whole crisis, though, while tragic, really brought us together. And I think the mayor's speech tonight was very much an indicator of that, collaboration that we now see.
And the mayor alluded to a new homeless facility near Father Joe's down on, was it 11th and Imperial? Can you talk us about that?
Well, I don't know a whole lot about it because he just announced it tonight, but I think it's the skydiving building that was relatively new in construction, and the idea is to make it an intake center where you have all the services available so that a homeless person can come in and actually get their Social Security payment. They can talk to the different service providers. They can get psychological help. All the different kinds of services are right there in one location, and that's incredibly beneficial.
And is there any projects plans that have gone through the Planning Commission so far to add additional homeless housing? And like you said, there's the intake facility being created, but is there any other permanent housing solutions that you guys are looking at in the East Village or anywhere throughout downtown?
Well, certainly the Penske lot, which is behind Father Joe's, they're building, I think, 450 units, a 14-story building. So there's certainly more facilities being constructed from a housing standpoint. But I think from a region standpoint, homelessness isn't just downtown, it's all throughout the region. So we really need to look at creating and identifying housing in other locations, not only in the city, but also the county. And so I think that's an enormous step. That's why the citizens initiative that the mayor talked about is such a critical component, because then that provides a source of funding so that we can actually identify and then either construct or transform housing into affordable housing, not only for homeless people, but also for lower income folks in those areas.
And then talk about the convention center expansion a bit. Was Downtown Partnership's thought on that via contiguous or offsite? And I believe you guys, before, correct me if I'm wrong here, were in favor of the contiguous proposal. Talk us through how that's going to impact the city and how it's going to benefit all of San Diego.
Sure. Well, the convention center expansion is a huge economic engine for downtown. The terrific return on investment. It is something that is really essential for tourism and for the lodging industry. And without it, we're limiting what we can attract to San Diego. We would certainly support and prefer a contiguous convention center expansion, and we think that's pretty critical. But there's no other under consideration at this point in time.
Has there been any talks with the Robert Greene Corporation, who has the Fifth Avenue lease right now, about going back to the original lease agreement regarding having the hotel next to Joe's Crab Shack and the convention center? See, I've done my due diligence on this.
That's good.
And have the convention center expansion as it was so rightly approved by the Coastal Commission.
Yeah, well, I believe the Crab Shack property is a separate discussion from the Green. As I understand it, there are discussions going on to try to address that
in the parking lot
and
there.
Try to work through that. And what is a component of the citizens initiative is, if in fact that doesn't get resolved favorably, which I think we have every expectations as a community in the downtown that it will, and certainly would support it. If in fact it doesn't, there's a provision in the Citizens Initiative to actually construct the expansion in a different direction. And so it's still going to happen one way or another.
Would it be on the 10th Avenue Marina, or would it be on top of the MTS tracks there? Or where would
My
be
understanding it'd be toward the Hilton.
towards the Hilton?
Right, so it would be expanding it further in that direction along the bayfront.
So essentially have it connected to the Hilton would be a possibility.
Right. Once again, you got to go back to the Coastal Commission
And
and
that
go
takes
through all
years.
that, and that will take time. However, we do have approval from the Coastal Commission to expand the convention center, as proposed, but that's going to require the resolution of the property that you mentioned.
Is there anything else you can tell us about downtown? Any major projects going on that the public should know about?
Well, I think that what we're seeing now is that there's this new sense of focus and a determination to collaborate with a lot of different groups and organizations, whether it's the police, whether it's the city, whether it's the county, getting more PERT clinicians to really help the process of addressing homelessness. I think we see a lot of movement and collaboration and people working together, and I think that's it's certainly unprecedented in my time working downtown, and so we're very excited about that and very encouraged by it.
Well, hey, thank you so much for the interview. I appreciate it, and best of luck with all these downtown projects.
That's great.
Thank you.